Well, I think that people are, today uncertain about a lot of things. And I think that when it comes to business, they're uncertain if they've made the right choice of what they want to do in their life. And that is we all have that. And even the
Mhm.
CEOs of the company and the
Yes.
owners of the company,
Mhm.
that's being contemplative. That's
Mhm.
being responsible.
You're listening to Strategy Real Time with Tom and Michelle, where bold ideas meet real world execution. Get ready for practical strategies, powerful insights, and stories that transform the way you lead and live.
Welcome back to Strategy in Real Time. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Tom.
We're so glad that you've joined us again here for Strategy Real Time. And, our last episode was really getting to know us, a little bit about us, fun facts, and some good energy, hopefully. Today, we're going to get down to brass tacks, right? And going to talk about something that we think is going to be very relatable to everybody that we're all dealing with.
So, this podcast, as you and I have brainstormed on several, was based on a lot of what we have encountered with other professionals that we've worked with, have been working with,
Mm-hmm.
and uncertainty. Everybody's
Yes.
uncertain about a lot of things in business right now.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that parlays over into their personal lives. When you have, business uncertainty, you can have some personal uncertainty because both do sort of
Oh,
interconnect and
mm-hmm.
affect each other. Right, Michelle? And
Mm-hmm.
with that, you explored and did some research, which I was
Mm-hmm.
fascinated
Mm-hmm.
by. And I know
Mm-hmm.
you came up with something
Yeah,
regarding
yeah, yeah,
uncertainty.
yeah, yeah. So when Tom said, "Hey, let's do this uncertainty thing," I said, "Yeah, that kind of piques my interest, right?" So I did some research, and you actually kind of pointed me in the right direction for where you saw this as a major issue. So, um, I came across an article that was conducted by the Conference Board, and I had never heard of the Conference Board, so I kind of looked
I
into
had not
that.
either.
And
Yeah.
it's a board that is a nonpartisan, nonprofit entity with more than 20,000 members, and they offer insights focused on the greater good, more so along the business lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they conducted a survey for 2026 of CEOs and COOs. 1,700 people, 1,700 COOs were asked to complete this survey, and that was the number one thing that they indicated for 2026 was uncertainty. That was what was top of mind for them. And I thought that was really amazing,
It
right?
is. And when the CEO is uncertain, that
Yeah,
consequently means everybody's uncertain.
right.
Whether that's verbalized or not, there's a certain feeling that can come across an organization. You can sort of tell when someone's
Hmm.
uncertain, right?
Hmm.
You can't fake it. I mean, some people can fake it till they make it. But with that, uncertainty sometimes just leads to silence,
Right,
right? And
right.
that's not good either. So, not
No,
to interrupt you,
no,
because
that's
I think
okay.
you're bringing up the
Yeah,
reference that we want to sort of have this podcast from
right.
today. But as we look at this survey, I can't wait to dig in because we're going to do this live. I'm doing this live. You're doing it live.
Hmm.
It's just
Hmm.
framework. And we're going to comment on what we hear.
Hmm.
And does that align with our own beliefs and perhaps the beliefs of the people that are listening to our podcast?
Right, right, right. So one of the things from the survey that they said was, when you think of uncertain times,
Mhm.
you think, well, we should pull back, right? We should take time, not do anything. Well, they're doing the exact opposite. They're investing. So there were 5 things that these CEOs talked about in the study that they were investing in. And I'm just going to run down those
Sure.
quickly, and we can comment if you have something you want to comment or you want me to comment on, we'll do that.
Why
But
don't we run down them and then go
okay.
back and take one at a time? Break
Sure,
it down.
sure, sure. So the first investment that they're making was on expansion. So they're, instead of, again, pulling back, they're looking at expansion in new markets, new customer segments, and domestic growth. So instead of pulling back and saying, we don't want to grow, we do want to grow. We're going to invest in growth. So that was one. And then optimization was another, and that's optimizing AI. We know that's top of mind for everybody, right? Innovation and customer experience, which I love the fact that they actually are thinking about customers
Yeah, they
in
haven't
the
left the customer
process.
out, the most important component. Sure.
Right, exactly. Investment in talent.
Mhm.
A third area in leadership development, skills, culture, and productivity. And that's really human to me. That I take to heart that talent development is so critical in today's world. And then an investment in society, the fourth one. So looking at economic opportunity, education, and mental health,
Mhm.
which again, mental health is really top of mind for a lot of executives. Companies are dealing with this issue.
Mhm.
And then marketing and communication was the fifth and final one. And we know how critical this is, that when there's uncertainty,
Mhm.
silence really can create fear. So those were the 5 areas that I thought, let's tell our audience about that. These are 1,700 CEOs, COOs from around the globe that have said uncertainty is top of mind for them.
Well, I applaud them with what they came up with as an initial list that you just shared with
Mhm,
the audience.
mhm,
And I'm anxious to get our teeth into this live, real,
mhm,
because
mhm,
it's their intentions are good. But as we went back to on our first podcast, execution. And
right.
so let's dig in and see how we feel about these particular areas, and maybe if we are so inclined to offer some perspective.
Mhm,
So the first one was, I believe, expansion.
mhm,
So
mhm.
can you tell us a little bit about their, what they had highlighted is that expansion? Was there anything more specific in there?
Well, I mean, I think that really what they were saying is that, you know, normally when there are uncertain times, you want to stay stable, not put more money into the organization,
Mhm.
look at additional services or markets. That it was more about, yes, we want to expand. We want
Mm,
to see where we can offer
mhm.
more of our services.
Well, that's interesting. I'm a little surprised in the sense that, and I don't disagree with that. It's kind of like when I was
Mhm,
listening to you, I was thinking of the Wall Street analogy. Some people take advantage of a stock when it's down, right? When Wall
mhm,
Street's down, and invest at that point. And so I equate it in my own analogy to that sort of scenario where people are saying,
mhm,
let's expand why things are uncertain, right?
mhm, mhm,
And I applaud that.
mhm,
However, what I call the mirror effect is that you have to make sure that you're looking internally in the organization before you externally expand.
mhm,
And
mhm,
what I mean by that briefly is that you can expand all you want. But if you don't have the team going in the direction of that expansion, you may find yourself at a point where you've spent a lot of money
mhm,
and a lot of energy, and you really don't have the results that you anticipated.
mhm,
So, when we expand, we first have to sort of like do that mirror
mhm,
approach where we're
mhm,
looking in the mirror. And when I mean the mirror, we're basically looking at the individuals in the organization who
mhm,
and where they
mhm,
are and the
mhm,
why.
mhm,
Why are they there?
mhm.
So that's critical with each individual that's going to be somehow involved in that expansion, which is ultimately the company.
Right.
And if we don't have all of those things set up, the
Mhm,
who and the why and where they are,
mhm.
it's possible that that could derail very quickly. And we can go into that some more.
Yeah,
What are your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree, and I think that dovetails into one of the other investments, and that's talent. So what you're saying and suggesting is like slow down. Don't just go after expansion, right? You've got to look at your own internal operations and to say, can you handle that expansion? Just don't go throw money at the wall, right?
Mhm.
See whatever sticks.
Well,
Look at
yeah,
your
I do.
internal team, look at your talent. Can they handle an expansion? Is your organization able to handle an expansion without it blowing up in your face?
Mhm. It's interesting you bring that up. One of the companies that we worked at formerly, our former CEO that we
Mhm.
both worked for, I can remember numerous times that individual would say, before we try to, do another acquisition and expand and grow,
Mhm.
let's
Mhm.
let's get let's get everything in order. Let's make sure that we're the best at what we're doing now.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
and in different ways and shapes and forms, he would say that.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me because everybody was on the bandwagon of let's expand. We
Right,
wanted the
right.
biggest. We want to be the largest. I think we had a pecking order back then
Yeah.
when the trade publications
Yeah.
came out. Who was the biggest?
Yeah.
Who was in the
Well, they
top
still
10?
do that.
Okay,
They still do that in senior
Okay.
living, and everybody really wants to be like the biggest, right?
So
Sometimes the biggest is not the best.
no, and I think that that was a good example as you're talking to me live about really
Mhm,
just sort of taking stock
mhm.
in where you are now and the people, in the culture, in what the great points are, but what
Yeah.
else can we still do to make it even better?
Right, right. Oh, I love that, Tom. That's brought back lots of memories because I do remember those days where we were like, let's be the biggest. We want to be the biggest.
Yeah.
And he did slow us down with that
Group
and
mentality.
taught us a lot.
Mhm.
He taught us a lot about
Sure,
how to run a
sure.
really great company
Yeah.
and how to value the people who work for you and value the customer,
Mhm.
which I love. Like this study is about also they mentioned about the customers and investing in the customers because how does it serve the customer if you expand
Mhm.
and you expand too quickly and you can't provide the service? You're not actually helping yourself, right?
Well, that's a great point, and you're also expansion going along those lines, but who is really the customer? The first customer is the coworker
Mhm,
and the
mhm,
team.
mhm,
And when the team is taken care of and they feel listened to and they feel heard
mhm,
and they have contribution.
mhm, mhm,
So that's part of the acceleration of
mhm,
getting
mhm.
the real paying customer to feel that.
Yeah,
It is still a frequency, right?
yeah.
Money is a form of energy and frequency and exchange, but how people feel,
Mhm,
and you can always tell when people are going in the direction of a unified team versus a
mhm,
fragmented.
mhm,
So yes,
mhm,
100%. Take care of
mhm.
the customer internally
Yeah.
first before we try to expand too much.
Well, it also makes me think about the conversation that we had with a former colleague right before we actually taped today, and we were talking very much about this point of like a team approach and how organizations are so siloed and departments are siloed, and it really does come down to paying attention to the coworkers
Mhm,
and letting them be a part of the solution when you're dealing with a difficult problem. If
mhm.
you're dealing with uncertainty, you got to bring those people together. And that goes also in line with the communication. You know, if there's um, silence, what comes from silence? It's fear. People begin to connect the dots. How does this apply to me? Does it apply to me? Am I going to have a job? Should I stay here? I don't know if I should stay here. Right?
Well, let's assume there is silence.
Hmm.
Let's assume we don't have it all figured out.
Hmm.
And even if that's an expansion, because I think we're still on number one. I could talk.
We might have to
I
go.
can
We
talk,
might have to go through
but
this,
that's
right?
okay. It's all right. This is real time. I mean, this isn't scripted stuff, so this is what you get, everybody. But no, we want to be relevant, of course. But I think that the importance of that quiet time, and if we don't have it all figured out, is how about going back to appreciation and gratitude?
Yes.
So isn't that a form of expansion? You know, let's expand our minds to the point where let's go back to looking internally. That goes back to that mirror strategy, the
Yeah.
mirror strategy. Look internally before we go externally. And let's show appreciation. And as you show appreciation, what does that do? Goes back to that frequency. It's going to create energy and frequency that's going to get everybody, at least from the perspective of, geez, I do feel valued. I do feel heard.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
there's this new opportunity coming along, and it can start with something as simple as going up to someone and telling them what they uniquely contribute and what their value added proposition is
Mhm.
to the team and to the company,
Mhm.
one on one,
Mhm.
eye to eye,
And how
or even a
often, I
note.
mean, you know what, you should ask yourselves the question, right? How often do we do that? Do we actually go out and take the time, get out of the office and get with the customers and with the coworkers and ask them that very question?
I had a
And
super.
and
No, I
yeah,
didn't want to
yeah,
interrupt you. Go
no,
ahead.
no.
No,
But
please.
ask them that. I mean, I think that we all get in that mode of like, I've got so much to do. I've got my to-do list. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got this pressure. I've got this.
I'm so busy.
I'm
I'm
so
so
I'm so
busy.
busy
Yeah.
that yeah.
Right.
And really,
By the way, the people that say that are the ones that aren't that busy.
why do you say that?
It goes back to the 80/20 rule. There's a point where when someone's overstating, generally that is because they are not that busy. People that are truly really busy just kind of quietly work through their day, and you don't see them, and you really don't really see them engaging in a lot of ancillary conversations. And usually when you go in their office, they're pretty serious about what they're doing. And so I just wanted to interject that when you hear somebody say, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, with what? Tell me what you're so busy with, because everybody's busy. And I think that that's an important part, that we have to start calling each other out on these things where people can get away with what sounds like a plant in our brain, but isn't necessarily reality.
Right.
So that's an
Right.
interesting notion. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
No,
I think that
that's
this
okay.
is.
So we could probably talk all day about all these other things.
Let me
but-
bring up
yeah,
another
but
tip, though,
go ahead,
because
go ahead,
you
go ahead.
really
Yeah.
started with this
All right.
appreciation.
Okay.
I want to just wrap this up
Okay.
real nicely. There was a gentleman that I used to work for, that every pay period, when the checks arrived,
Oh, this is a good one.
and he would write on the back of the stub of the check a little notation. Every 2 weeks it was different. And my gosh, you got the paycheck, but imagine the note became more important than the pay, because he just took how many people, including myself, don't do that. It's another tactic. Isn't that cool?
I
My
love
God,
it,
I
Tom.
love that.
Well, and some people out there are saying, well, what pay stub, right? I don't get a pay stub. It's all direct deposit. It's all electronic.
Showing my age now, yeah.
But you know what? I mean, what you could do, right? If you want to make an impact, if you really want to make an impact on the people that report to you, ask your payroll department, print those checks out and do that exact thing and send it through the mail. Now, I know stamps are pretty expensive nowadays.
Do an email.
But no, Tom.
Okay,
But
okay.
I think, to your point,
You want the personalization?
It's the personalization.
I agree.
I mean, and
Good point.
in the previous job that I was in, every so often, I would get my cards out and I would write a personalized note to somebody who maybe did something extra special, had a great grand opening, or a great party for their coworkers or something like that. Anything, right? Just an opportunity to put something in writing. I think we don't understand how important that is to get something through the mail that is handwritten and that is meaningful, and it's about that person, and it makes you feel really good.
Yeah.
Anytime any of my supervisors have done that, it was a wonderful thing. My old boss, my mentor, he was so great about that. Every so often, I mean, like, he noticed like the extra hard work that I was putting in, the extra long hours, and just a handwritten note with a SPA certificate. I mean, I would move mountains for him. I would have moved, and today, even today, I would move mountains for him if he called me and needed something.
That's great.
So it really is about the personal touch, and so wow, we really went off on that one,
No,
didn't
that's
we?
great.
But I
Well,
thought
no,
that was real good.
I
I thought
appreciate
that was
that.
real good. Handwritten notes, do you hear me? Handwritten notes are really great. They're still good. People appreciate them. And I got one more little story with that one.
Sure.
When I had my oldest son, and I was in Pittsburgh at the time. I was an executive director in a building. The CEO wrote me a card of congratulations. And I think he might have included maybe a $50 gift card at the time. And, $50 is a lot of money now. But back then, in the 90s, I mean, $50 was a lot, you know. And
It's
I
the
have
point
to
that
tell
counts.
you,
Yeah.
now I'm somebody, and we're probably going to pull out a couple of fun things throughout these podcasts of all the things that I've kept in my closet, right, of all my little trinkets. But I kept that note from him. And I still have it to this day. And that's 31 years later. That's how meaningful that was to me. I could actually kind of cry on that one.
Well,
So
I'm glad you shared that
yeah.
because I
So
think what you're discussing
mhm,
is imperative. Some people may think that that's, in business, some people may think emotion is unnecessary. And to some extent, that's fair because we don't want to be overly emotional in
right.
business.
I
But
warned you
but
though the last
but
time you might
no,
see a tear.
no, and
Didn't I warn you
of
on the
course, and
last
and
one?
and you can cry all you want. This is a podcast. That's the good news. It's a
Cry your eyes
podcast.
out,
Yeah,
baby.
cry your eyes out. So it's okay.
So yeah,
And I mean, I think that we don't need to be. We're not going to put up boundaries on this podcast.
right.
I won't do it if we are, and you wouldn't
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
It's what comes real. We don't use the word real
Mhm,
in this podcast title
mhm,
to just be cutesy.
right.
We use it where whatever happens, happens, and whatever is said is said. And that's what's relevant, and that's what people want. They don't want scripted stuff.
Right.
So we've got, you know, we both decided that we were going to put ourselves out here. And there may be things that people learn about us and our approaches to life. And some of that may or may not agree with them or in line with them. That's okay. We're here to help
Right.
and
Right.
take away what is that helpful to you.
Mhm,
Then the rest of it is okay to dismiss that. But if we get a couple things that we can help you with, that's what our goal
Right.
is. So you being emotional is perfectly okay because it comes from a good place.
mhm.
And the fact that you kept that note as
Yeah.
long as you did
Mhm.
says something about you.
Mhm.
So what's number 2 on this big list? What's the second thing?
Oh no, let's move on, Tom.
All
From that.
right. Okay.
Let's try to get. We want to help our audience again. We could talk forever.
Go ahead.
But let's try to give folks a view of what they might be dealing with in uncertainty, like just like regular everyday things that
Mhm.
they may be experiencing. And I'll just do one, and then you can do another. Like some folks out there might be saying like, my job is on the line if I don't hit my sales goals,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
What am I going to do? This is a very uncertain time.
Mhm.
I really want that next promotion. But my department right now is in chaos, and I think that might jeopardize my ability to get promoted.
Mhm.
What's one or two that you can think of that our listeners may be actually dealing with in real time, in real life?
Mhm. Well, I think that people are, today uncertain about a lot of things. And I think that when it comes to business, they're uncertain if they've made the right choice of what they want to do in their life. And that is we all have that. And even the
Mhm.
CEOs of the company and the
Yes.
owners of the company,
Mhm.
that's being contemplative. That's
Mhm.
being responsible
Mhm.
because that's not just an opportunity to be negative. That's an opportunity to be positive about what you do in your life and the contributions you make. So, what I would say to your question about being and having uncertainty is the first place that you start with, in my opinion, is to get your facts in order about what you feel certain about. So, let's start there. So, take an inventory of what you feel really good about
Mhm.
in business and to some extent apply that to your personal life. What's working for you? That will bring out that appreciation that you so eloquently shared earlier. And that will also help you recognize that it's not one school of thought you have to be in or another. You can be uncertain, but still have gratitude and appreciation about what you do and the contributions you've made.
Mhm. Mhm.
It doesn't have to be one versus the other. Find that middle ground and
Mhm.
start with what you feel certain about. That would be where I would tell people to start first
Mhm.
because all of it's applicable. The second thing I would probably suggest to people is to understand if you're uncertain about it, what would you be potentially certain about? So we all get in our minds that we have to get out, we have to get out.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
tying us to the desk, right? Whatever that is. I'm using a metaphor, of
Mhm.
course, but
Mhm.
okay, so what are you in such a hurry for?
Mhm.
Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And so have an idea of if you are uncertain, what it looks like to be certain. Where do you place yourself? What are you doing? Because, as I always say, be careful what you ask for.
Yes.
You've got to understand that with uncertainty,
Mhm.
if you're really going to do something about it and you've surveyed it, will come more uncertainty. And that can be a gift, but if you're not ready, that can be a real burden. So understand the complexities of uncertainty and take it in a context of evaluation before we just jump or before we get ourselves too convinced that we're in the wrong place at the
Mhm.
wrong time.
Mhm.
So I think that's number 2.
Mhm.
Number 3 is pinch yourself. I think that people in general always think it's somebody else. It's somebody else. Sometimes we use plural, sometimes we use singular.
Mhm. Mhm.
But we never, ever in business say, how am I contributing to the chaos? How am I contributing to the culture?
Mhm.
How am I contributing to the lack of communication? How am I contributing to whatever problems we have? How can I contribute to getting us out of
Mhm.
uncertainty if
Mhm.
we're in uncertainty? Because a lot of people, right, would sit back and say, they don't know what the hell they're doing,
Well,
right? They don't know what the
Tom,
hell they're doing. So I just sit back
yeah,
passively, and
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
worst
yeah,
thing you can
yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah,
Doesn't help at all.
yeah. I love that because um, I have to tell you, like, I've done that, right? I've been that person.
We all have.
Yeah. I mean, just
We
being
speak from
honest,
experience. Of
we
course,
speak
we
from
all have.
experience where,
We've looked in the mirror
it's,
too, of
I
course.
can't believe, why are they doing that? I mean, even at top levels, right? In my career, like, why are they
Everybody
doing
does it.
this?
Everybody does it.
This is out of control. If they would only do this, if they would only do that. And then, something happens, right? And the way I deal with uncertainty, and you and I have talked about this, like I make a list, much the way you're just talking about, like make a list of the things that you're uncertain about, the things that you are certain about. And then also I add in like, what do I want out of this? Right. And then, by doing that, I was able to also see how I might have been contributing to the problem.
Well,
Right. And then what do I need to do differently to change? If I want my situation to change, I need to take the ownership that I need to take for how I'm contributing to it and how I can change it.
So that puts us into an interesting, complex place. Is uncertainty a dead road, a dead end, or is it a fork in the road?
I think it's a fork in the road.
That's what you're essentially saying.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a fork in the road, and it depends on what you do with it, right? If
Yeah.
you become a victim, like we've talked about being victims before too, like if you become a victim to it, you're going to continue to get the same thing over and over again.
In business, though, we don't branch out as leaders in the organization to get the feedback, meaning feedback, individual opinions
Yeah.
of what they think could help get us out of uncertain times. The simplicity of asking people in the organization, what do you feel could help us get out of this situation? What idea or suggestion you have that is solutions based. And for some reason, as leaders, we go back to the same people over and over and over again. And we don't step back and look to see, well, geez, the last 3 or 4 times that they gave me advice or feedback didn't necessarily generate the outcome that I anticipated. But when you're in leadership and you're in the work environment, make darn sure that you don't get reliant on the same information sources, because likely you will end up at a dead end.
Boy, doesn't
you
that.
will
I mean,
end
it
up
will.
at a dead end. Yeah.
You have to be pretty vulnerable for that one, right? But I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? So hopefully, Tom, as we start to wrap this podcast today, what would be one thing that you would take away from our discussion that you would like to cement for our listeners, or out there, the folks, that if they take one nugget away from this podcast, what would that be?
I think it's where we started. If you're in uncertain times, look internally. Sometimes you don't get out of uncertain times unless you really are willing to evaluate your current circumstances and situations. So let's remember that first and foremost, and let's lean on the people that are going to be ultimately making that change to get us out of there. And that doesn't mean that everybody can handle that responsibility. So we have to really look at that carefully and help people get into the right positions. for the right reasons.
Right.
That would be
Yeah.
my takeaway.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, I mean, uncertain times, I think that my takeaway, of course, uncertain times, make the list, right? Make the list, tackle the list. I'm a very visual person,
I
so
love the
make
organizational
the
component of that. Yeah.
make the list. Force yourself to make the list with pencil. I use pencil and paper because I'm an old school kind of gal, and cursive writing. Even though a lot of these kids aren't taught today cursive writing, when you actually write something,
Yeah.
it does stimulate the brain as well. So get out a piece of paper with a pencil and make your list.
Great idea.
And then, knock it off by all the other things that we talked about. Make a plan, make a personal plan. It seems kind of weird to do that, but like, I think people who are hugely successful in life, they actually, every so often, they put together their own plan on paper so that they can hold themselves accountable to where do I want to go and how am I going to get there, and evaluate. So that's my huge
Great advice for
takeaway
people.
today.
Yeah.
But I can't let us get away from it today without saying to write that personal note, right?
Yeah,
So write the personal
yeah,
note,
that's your favorite.
because if you're writing the personal note to somebody else, you're going to create delight, and hopefully you'll receive a personal note from somebody that really cares about you. So we have all kinds of topics that we want to do in our podcast, and we'd love to hear from you. If you want us to cover any topic, we'd love to hear from you. So
yeah, it's a pleasure doing this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
lots to come. So
Yeah,
thank you,
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, and we're out. Take care.